Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, the Wise Guy, and today is January 15th, 2025, and the MAGA civil war that has begun recently between Steve Bannon and Elon Musk has only begun to heat up. Those two are representing a feud within the conservative base that I think is reminiscent of Mean Girls, but it actually has the momentum to be troubling for policy proposals moving forward. Since declaring that Musk will be out of Trump's radius before Inauguration Day, Bannon finds himself losing time and potentially sway in the MAGA orbit. Could it be his downfall, or could this be another marked rise of a revolution that has been touted by even a recent CNN and MSNBC guest, Professor Scott Galloway, who has been making the media rounds and expressly making every moneyed interest watching collectively begin to tighten certain parts of their southernmost anatomies. So if you enjoy news, history, or Americana in general, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Sit bell. Take your shoes off. Recently, Steve Bannon got into a little podcast session to say that his little faction or side of MAGA is now all but warring with the Doge bags, Musk and Ramaswamy. The reason this may be more interesting than people are making it out to be is that it represents the two main pieces to Trump's success in gaining power, and they're now both equally vying for his attention. One side of the podcast, Steve Bannon bros, who kind of act as a conduit for the working class, average Joe supporter for Trump, and Elon Musk represents all of the money donors who saw their portfolios getting bigger if they threw their support behind any Republican who happened to gain office. The main issue here is when Elon began throwing his seemingly endless wealth into the campaign, I saw where this was headed. And I said weeks ago that this was a way to take advantage of the movement that was in dire need of financial support over grassroots support. And before taking even a second to reconsider, MAGA fully embraced the man who really, honestly, literally bought Trump in one of the most blatant pay-to-play schemes of our lifetimes. And what sucks is during his campaign in 2016, this is exactly what they were all crying about when it comes to corruption of the Clintons and their dumbass replacement theory. They droned on and on about big money and corruption and fraud and the ivory towers of the coastal elites and flyover states and all of that. Then they went on to talk about the racist ideas of how immigrants were coming in to literally replace American workers, and
they took our jobs.
I personally remember it vividly, and if you don't remember it at all or claim to, then your memory is terrible or you're just being disingenuous. Yet now Elon Musk, an immigrant who has called Trump supporters retarded and openly that says they need to be replaced by people from other countries who can think and work circles around the average American dumbass American man, has gained the attention of the rich coastal elite, who literally has multiple towers across the world. And I totally get why Bannon is pissed. He and Trump let the dollar signs fill their eyes, and they took the bait, hook, line, and sinker, as we used to say. And they've opened themselves to not only exploitation, but extortion as well. So I guess we'll have to wait and see which side Trump decides to choose, and it doesn't look great for all the Trump supporters in overpriced apartments in the suburbs, and better for the Trump supporters in luxury yachts and global penthouses. Some may not yet see the writing on the wall here, but Bannon sure has. That dude is panicking on his podcast, doing everything he can to try and grab some kind of leverage against someone who is literally throwing money at Trump. I said years ago that it was always kind of funny how Trump supporters so openly embraced the guy who was just a Democrat until he saw the opportunity. And then they glorified the guy who literally represented the complete opposite of their interests and their views. I won't even go over the utter blasphemy that has been performed by the self-described Christians in order to genuflect at this man's feet. Calling out every crude example of that would require its own episode, and I'll be glad to do it if y'all are interested. Let me know in the comments. But Trump was never going to go to the villages in glad hand with his retired fans. He was never going to go hang out in a Waffle House in Appalachia and share coffee to find out how he could bring more businesses and opportunities to small towns that see more deer than travelers. He spent a record amount of time during his first term on his own golf courses and winning tournaments that he had set up for himself. It's not a lie. Google it. During this whole ordeal, when did Brenda and her husband from a neighborhood in New Jersey get invited to hang out with all those glitzy folk down at Mar-a-Lago? And now Steve Bannon is getting basically ignored by Trump for the new, and that new happens to have Trump's favorite thing in the whole wide world beyond that of even his love and romance for Ivanka. Melania. Sorry. Freudian slip. And what that is stacks of fat cash, something Bannon currently does not possess. And here's the real sticking point, because I feel like it isn't yet sinking in. Trump has finally achieved everything he ever wanted. This is his last term, and he literally has no reason to keep his base happy. He got what he wanted out of them. They've proven their worth, and their worth to him, they have proven no more. The folks who do have worth to Trump and his legacy after the White House are those who will promise to keep his brand wealthy in the years to come. So, if you want to know who I think Trump truly represents in this new term, let's just see who sits by him at this inauguration. And another point that also has been glossed over by a lot of people is the commentary that has been shared by business professor at NYU, Scott Galloway. He's been on both CNN and MSNBC recently to warn of a revolution in which we currently find ourselves upon the precipice, shocking both Joe Blow Hardborough and CNN's Michael Smerconish when he told them both to their faces that there is a massive income and wealth inequality in this country, and people are pissed about it. Both sides of the political aisle. He went on to cite what happened to Brian Thompson when in broad daylight the insurance CEO was gunned down, and Americans are still treating the shooter as a folk hero instead of a criminal, as legacy media is so desperately trying to apply to Mr. Mangione. He claimed that we are now at a point where individuals in our country have more money than some nation states, while millions of people live paycheck to paycheck, and some with multiple jobs trying to make ends meet. People like Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Musk each own more wealth and power than some sovereign countries. And Professor Galloway also said something that should strike at least pause into some of the hearts and minds, and that is we now live in an oligarchic kleptocracy, where hoarding wealth is more important to the powers that were voted in than the people they're supposed to represent. And he went on to describe as this is very reminiscent of Putin and Russia. And it would appear that the fracture has already begun to form itself inside MAGA. And it may actually be something of a story in itself in the near future, because if there is even a small chance that Trump supporters actually see even a small bit of the grift that they have been exploited into buying, I actually feel as though their scorn could be foundational for cataclysmic events if we are indeed at the edge of a wealth and disparity revolution as laid out by Scott Galloway. We'll just have to see which friends will drive the palace intrigue in the coming months, and who happens to be closest to Trump's ear, both physically and metaphorically, on day one. Will it be Bannon and the MAGA voters? Or will it be the very moneyed interests that they thought they were trying to destroy? I guess we'll just have to kind of see in 5 days what may very well be a preview to our new America. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Y'all come back now. You hear?